being human with you. Together we can find a way. Being human, together we can find a way. Being human, beyond belief from this day. One voice rise and we can stand.
Hello there and welcome to episode 16 of Being Human with You. Numbers rack up, don't they? It doesn't take long. The aim, the intention is an episode each week. I will share later on about spin-offs, spin-off series, but this is going to be an integral part of each week. I also want to reflect back on last week's episode 15, of course, Being Human with You, and we were talking about healing. The response has been amazing. I want to thank all individuals who have made comments, who have responded offline, as well as in the comment section here in YouTube, on other social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, particularly in no order. Those are the main platforms I'm using, and of course here. I will be aiming to. There's so much secular work, other projects, beginning to reform what we're sharing here into audio for Spotify. The series is kind of like stalled, to use a driving term, in regard to the audio version. But I am going to be picking up on that. So it is my intention to catch up with quite a few episodes to reform them into audio as well. But I wanted this week, I think we're going to be returning to healing at some point. Always, and we always are, and there's never a complete version of that. We're constantly in a healing process. There's a little bit on healing there, as opposed to it being a destination outcome. It's an ongoing process. Whatever the trauma, the difficulty, the pain that we've been through, that you've been through in life, healing is ongoing. So that's a good life-affirming bridge, if you like, on healing. Because sometimes we think, but I still feel about it. Well, yeah, and that will continue. Check out last week's episode, but we will come back to healing again. I wanted to talk about what I feel is one of the blights of society, one of the epidemics of society, which is comparison. And I don't want to use the terms bad and good. I'd prefer to use the term favourable. There are some favourable versions of the majority of human characteristics. There's favourable versions of anger. Anger can lead to, can become indignation, which can lead to appropriate action in certain situations. So it depends on how it's channeled. So comparison really is no different. Comparison has an unfavourable aspect and a favourable aspect. There's some comparison in life that can really erode our experience in life. There's some comparison that can add to the quality of our lives. So I want to talk briefly about both, and then I want to share about a project that involves favourable comparison from a creative point of view. So if I give a quote, I'm not one perhaps at times to necessarily give quotes, but I heard this quote in a podcast, and actually, ironically, it was misquoted. And then I thought, well, I better just double check where does that quote originate from. Sometimes a challenge to know. But anyway, I'll give the quote and the apparent source. Comparison is the thief of joy. You may have heard that quote. I'll say it again. Comparison is the thief of joy. That was US President Theodore Roosevelt. I've not gone as far as which numbered president he was, but Theodore Roosevelt. And he apparently said, comparison is the thief of joy. Now, in this podcast interview that I was viewing, the individual said comparison is the thief of time. Now, they weren't actually referencing that quote to Theodore Roosevelt. For me, both are equally true. If we can waste a lot of time and life and enjoyment by comparing. And I won't reference the individual, but I remember once being at a live event and somebody I was with, a musician, said to me of a band, and I've shared this before, and it just really, really intrigued me. I was in the process of making major developmental changes in myself, and I still am. We all are. That's part of being human. We're not going to get to the point where that's it, I'm complete now. Might feel complete within our experience, but there's always something that we can improve on, develop, become better. That's part of the progress of life. And it's good to acknowledge that, because there's no superiority then. We just think, yeah, I'm a work in progress. Very much so, as we all are. So this person said, listening to them, does it make you feel you're not good enough? And of course, the person was talking about in terms of in a moment or two, we were going to be on the stage performing. And immediately I could see where that mindset thinking was coming from, which was comparison, of course, but comparison from an unfavourable point of view. There was inadequacy in that comparison. Does it make you think you're not as good as them? I turned it around and I said, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make me think I'm not as good as them. It makes me feel there are certain things that they are better at than I am, but likewise, vice versa. Same for me. I'm better at certain things than they are. Again, that's a healthier, balanced view from my experience and point of view, because I'm grounded in that, but there's no superiority. Attributes of creativity. For me, one thing I'm sharing at the moment as an opportunity, I'll mention it here because it's just come to me, is the opportunity to write your song with me. And it's a service. Already individuals are not just expressing not just expressing interest, they are actually expressing they want to do this, and effectively they've signed up to the idea. Now, the things I know that I can do musically, I'm very strong with melody. I'm very strong with a very attention-grabbing chord progression and melody. I'm very good at helping people shape and form lyrics, because that's the idea of this offering, this service, especially as we're moving towards a giving season. It could be something that aligns with you. So I couldn't, put my hands on the keyboard, sheet music in front of me and start playing every single note and some complex patterns. I couldn't just start, playing Superstitions, Stevie Wonder. That's not me. Does that mean I'm not musical? Of course not. It might mean I'm not that type of musician, but I have musicality. So rather than feeling inadequate in comparison with somebody who can, has that musical skill, that musicality skill, musicianship, trained academically, do I admire that? 100%, totally, completely. Certain aspects of it I'm in awe of. Does it mean I can't offer something? No, categorically not. I can. And the strengths I have, partly, a good friend of mine said, well, that's almost in a way you're compensating. By what I do, because I've never trained myself technically, I compensate for that by my ear is very attuned to. I form, for example, when I'm in the studio with Mark Walker, I never get tired of hearing the guitar solo. I come up with bass lines. I'm very drawn towards a bass movement, and I can form bass patterns. Within reason, I can pick up the bass and play the bass. But for me, it's more creating. I'm more of a writer, which doesn't mean I'm not a musician. So therefore, that's what I bring, and that's what I'm offering. If that aligns with you, I'll pop in here. I hadn't planned for this, genuinely. My email address, raycoatesvoice@gmail.com. That'll be going across the screen. raycoatesvoice@gmail.com. Reach out if it's a song you want for you, if it's a song you desire to be written as a gift for somebody. Let's talk about it. And already I have had interest, and not just interest, but that interest is now leading to a commitment of collaboration. We're writing. So maybe there's another message. Collaboration is better than this comparison and conflict and competition, unfavorable competition, because competition is healthy, it's good. There's plenty. So, if somebody sharpens us, it could be in the work setting, it could be creatively, as I've just shared, but the comparison then becomes favorable. What is it I like about this? What is it I admire about what that individual's doing? And then rather than perhaps trying to replicate it, we can take pieces of it. And knowingly and unknowingly, we're all doing that. To some degree, the old proverb is true. There is nothing new under the sun. I don't personally actually listen to a lot of music. I'm listening to what I'm creating and comparing it and thinking, is that working? Is there something else we can do here, or something less we can do here? Something we need to take out or put in? But I do that because I guard myself personally against wanting to feel that comparison. Oh, this is very Pink Floyd, or this is very whatever it might be. Somebody might say, when I share I'm a songwriter, so what type of music is it? Who does it sound like? There are comparisons, but I try as much as I can to steer away from those, because I feel that origin of the creativity that I'm sharing, and I feel it's the same for others, not just for me, in conversation and in viewing, it's fresh then. That's not me saying, by the way, don't listen to music. It's just that's how I choose to do it, because otherwise I might listen to something and I'm very absorbent. That's part of my creativity. So back to this songwriting. I absorb you and I reform whatever it is you share into your song. It's an amazing process. So I think that's the beginning of comparison. There was a lyric I wrote in a song, How to Make Your Own Society, from the new album, Oversoul the Reform. And I say new as in it's the most recent. There's other projects on the horizon as well. And a lot of these songs have been reformed. I'll talk about that in a moment. But one How to Make Your Own Society. One of the lyrics I wrote is this: addicted to comparison. Rip it up and start again. Addicted to comparison. I'm fairly sure that's the kind of sandwich lyric. Addicted to comparison. I said earlier about an epidemic of comparison. I feel it is one of the most untalked about addictions. But it is an addiction. Now, that addiction is fed. It's fed through social media. That's again one of the reasons why I want to do this podcast, because I want to promote and encourage individuals to return back to origin. And what I mean by origin is being human. That's the being we are, the species, if you like, that we are. Rather than complicating it with all of these external comparisons, just go back to the root. Go back to the origin, the earth, if you like, that we are from, of. Grounding in that. Belief systems can exist. Again, a regular message that I've shared. I'm not looking to destroy religion. I'm not looking to destroy politics. To some degree, excuse me. I'm not looking to destroy, of course, social media. I'm looking to put a light on and raise questions over aspects. So, addiction to comparison is one of those. This ever-present, destructive, erosive, addictive. Oh, I need to be more like that. When I think of myself as a creator, as a writer, and this is where there's almost there is a reforming and a rebirthing, if you like. Because rather than trying to fit into that genre-based way of being, which I think if you're beginning a music career, possibly is an understandable career move. Now, I'm kind of further on in the process, and almost in a way I've begun again at the stage of life that I'm at. So therefore, I'm looking to create alternative, because I have to, in the sense of I'm not going to waste the time I have remaining concerning myself with, is this rock? Is it pop? Is it soul? Is it indie? Is it shoegazing? Is it a bit more spiritual aspects of music? I won't. What for me is central, and I'm not trying to make it worthy, it's just how I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing that with no comparison. Is central is the message of self-empowerment, self-sovereignty, being your best version human being that you can be, not based on a religion, a political ideal, a social media promoted way of being, an academically acceptable tick box. You fitted into this criteria. No, it's you, and it's us being the fullest version of us. So that's really central to all of the writing. Some of that compares to how I didn't view that in the past. Some of that spends time as to what the experience is now, and some of that projects into the future, including fresh, new ways of looking at things that perhaps do question destructive patterns in myself, and how I see potentially what are the major stumbling blocks. And one of those is comparison, this addiction to it. So it's infusing pockets of sound bites, quite literally, sonically, through music. I'm not alone in that. I'm not a radical revolutionary in that. But that's what I'm doing, definitely. And I'm utilizing my creative ability, my voice. I'm grateful to have it, and the voice of others. So there's a good beginning thought around comparison. What do you feel? What can we do more favorably about comparison? How can we? Because we do as creatures, of course. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's not to say stop comparing. It's to say, is there perhaps another way we can use comparison, like I mentioned earlier with anger? So I'd be interested in your comments, and the comments are beginning to flow more. And I'm very grateful for that. I mentioned that earlier too. Go in the comments. Express yourself. Favourably, ideally. This is not a conflict-based content, which tragically, here's a comparison from me, tragically at times is incredibly popular because it's just click, click. It's this conflict and this division between human beings. So there's lots going on always. I'm beginning to do more lives again in TikTok. So I want to just, while it's clicked into my mind as a memory, majority of Friday evenings, I will always announce. Majority of Sunday afternoons, I will always announce. Majority of Monday evenings. And with Monday, it's messages and music of mental health matters. So Friday evening, Sunday afternoon, Monday evening. But if you go to TikTok, Ray Coates Voice, I will always make sure in my profile the next live is always put there. Generally speaking, I share an hour countdown to the live. Cover versions, original songs, chat, all about being human. Talking about the past, talking about the present, talking about the future. How can we have a better relationship with all of those time entities, those time realms? How can we use them more favorably in our own lives? Again, very strong lyrical content of the music. And I want to now announce there is going to be a separate series, very short, very to the point, but the current album, Oversoul the Reform, I released, it's probably got to be close to 50 songs, I can't remember how many, under the name Oversoul and the Architects of Passion. Those songs will remain in existence. I'm not going to remove them. They were released under that name, Oversoul and the Architects of Passion. I'll put some graphic here as well so you can see as a reference. Well, what I've done recently, particularly with the album Oversoul the Reform, is take 10 to be precise songs, and they're not just remixes. We've reformed the songs. Now, they're not radically changed, but the arrangement has been moved around. Things have been added. In certain songs, I've given a fresh vocal. But they are reforms. And the idea of the reform is, in the majority of cases, I was the originator of the songs. I wrote the songs. Some of them involved others. Those other examples still exist. And I will be comparing them. And I will be talking about the individuals who were involved. 100%. So it's not that's gone. It's just now everything's coming under my name, Ray Coates. It's easier for me to some degree. This is time sensitive to manage. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the original version with the Oversoul the Reform album version. And I'm going to put the two songs next to each other and have a brief discussion about them. And then I'm interested to know, do you have a particular aspect favourite. Because of time, there's not going to be like a massive orchestral arrangement. That's money, by the way, as well, not just time. That might be in the future. I would love that. Adding a choir to certain songs, a brass section, of course. But this is time-based because I'm creating all of the time as opposed to just one thing. Because I also think we're multi-dimensional creatures. And personally, I'm not a great fan of that. Just do one thing. There's too much to do from my point of view. So watch out for that series. Two sides of the same song. Two sides of the same song. That's what the series is going to be. And I'm working on that. So we're going to outro with a small snippet, which is going to replay twice of the opening track from Oversoul the Reformed, track 1. See, Hear and Speak. The most current version on the album. That's the remixed version, the reformed version, the rebirth version, if you like. More to come on that on a previous named project. So that's what I'm going to do as a new series. 2 songs next to each other, full versions, discussion, and then saying, what do you think? Which version works better for you? Because they are rearranged, reformed. I look forward to that comparison. I look forward to your comments on comparison, and keep reaching out. If there's a subject you think that we should talk about as human beings, then I will bring that into the Being Human with You podcast. That's what it's all about. Very much open discussion. No division. You can have belief system. I can have belief system, of course, but that's not who we are. So bring in your human being expressions and keep being the incredible human being that you are. Keep being seen. Keep being heard. Keep speaking and encourage others to do likewise as well. Much love to you and gratitude, and I look forward to being with you next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
No evil, you need to know evil to truth see. Unbelief we must reconcile, see, hear and speak. No greater cause than to let the secret of love's light leak. Pause no more, open the truth and cry out, see, hear and speak. No blind light to lose your way, no deaf ear to truth today. No voice that's hard, let me hear you say, see, hear and speak. See, hear and speak. See, hear and speak. Say, hear and speak. No evil, you need to know evil to truth see. Unbelief we must reconcile, see, hear and speak. No greater cause than to let the secret of love's light leak. Unpause no more, open the truth and cry out, see, hear and speak. No blind light to lose your way, no deaf ear to truth today. No voice is hard, let me hear you say, see and speak. See and speak. See and speak.